Welcome to Our View, the podcast, where we're changing the conversation about disability one story at a time. Here at Our View, we're all about education, awareness, and shifting perspectives. With each episode, we dive into honest, meaningful conversations with individuals from across the disabled community, amplifying voices, sharing lived experiences, and challenging the way society sees disability. Because disability isn't a limitation, it's a part of the human experience. So pull up a seat and join us as we broaden the view and bring real, powerful stories into focus. This is Our View. I would like to welcome everyone back to a new episode of Our View, the podcast, where we aim to educate, raise awareness, and change the tone of conversation about disabilities. I'm your host, Arthur Aston, and today my guest is Annalisa Bell. So thank you for joining me
Thank
for
you.
this episode. Yes, I'm excited to have you on and for you to share your story with everyone. And speaking of your story, can you share it with us? Can you just
Sure.
yeah, just tell us, who you are, some things you like to do for fun.
Yeah.
Anything you'd like to share about your story with us.
Okay, great. So, often because I'm an inclusive talent, right? So actor and model. But basically they always make you tell like in 30 seconds or less, tell us your life story. So this is what I say, and this really sums it up, and I'll add some other tokens at the end. But you know, I don't know many people have swum in the cold, dark, and really scary waters of the Hudson River, but I actually have as a former professional triathlete. And I just love to race and compete and be active and run and do all that my entire life. But all that changed in 2020 when most people were navigating the pandemic. I was being diagnosed with progressive MS. And after that, the only competition I really see is when I'm in audition rooms or when I'm racing people in those fast electric scooters at Target down the aisles and stuff like that. But that's basically my story. I grew up in Hackensack, New Jersey. I went to Hackensack High School, very proud graduate there. I won a full scholarship to college for swimming and academics. I graduated from the year that I got the full scholarship. My brother got very sick with depression. He was also going to the same school, Iona College, and my dad passed. So I had to make the decision, do I want to live at home and give up my scholarship and be with my mom and my brother since my dad died? Or am I going to continue at Iona College? So I chose to go to Montclair State, and that's where I graduated from. I was a very good swimmer there, MVP. And then I graduated and I did 1 year towards my master's in exercise science. I graduated with a BA in English teacher's education. I started racing triathlon, and in a year, I became a professional. And then basically, I did that for a while. And then I met my ex-husband, who was a professional cyclist. We lived in Europe for a decade. My son was born in Italy. My daughter was born in America. So I feel that my experience is extremely worldly as I've lived for many, many years in other countries. Um, and a long story short, then in 2015, 2016, moved back with my children. The marriage didn't work out. That's okay. Sometimes things don't work out. And I went back to work full time as a massage therapist because in that all that interim, I had also gone to school to be a massage therapist. And I was working like four jobs, and finally I got a really good job at Sojo in Edgewater. I was a full-time massage therapist there, and I had my own professional athlete massage business. I worked for guys in the NHL, the MLB, the MLS. I was the part-time therapist for the New York Red Bulls when Tyler Adams was there. I don't know if you know anything about soccer, but like he's their guy. He's in Europe now, and I think he'll be representing the United States in the World Cup. I just saw him on ABC News. So was really honored to work there. We had a great group of guys at that time. And then I had to unfortunately leave there because I needed to be full time at the spa. And then in like I started 2016, oh, my back, oh, I'm having trouble walking. And speed up to 2020, I was diagnosed with progressive MS. And then my life changed. So we moved from New Jersey to Arizona to go to the Mayo Clinic and to hopefully get better. I spent about a year being depressed because the life that I had known, I had to really dissect it and see, who am I? And after like a year of suffering, really, I realized that I physically can't do a lot of the things that made me who I was, but I'm still the same person. Like I'm still competitive and I'm still loving. I would like to think I'm funny sometimes. Um, I'm kind, work really hard. I love animals and my kids. Uh, my family is my priority. And I'm absolutely still a 100% a child of God, you know? So that whole transformation took place like within a year. And then I had an eBay store. Somebody taught me how to do it. And before I got a little more sick, I was able to successfully do that for like a year. And then someone was like, oh, you should, there's inclusive talent now more, and you should really get pictures taken. So it just so happened that my friend Lillian Ray, who's in, the entertainment industry, was like, go take pictures. I took some pictures with a lady who was not really a photographer, just a realtor. It was her passion. And the first agency I submitted to, they took me. And I was like, what, surprised, And then I got ZBD, which is a huge only inclusive agency in New York City and London and LA. I think it's in Australia, Europe, New Zealand. They took me. And the rest has kind of been history. But it just started with someone suggesting, that, hey, you can do this. Because there was a lot of things in the beginning that I had to work through and be like, okay, I have to adapt now. Because prior, I was able to get up and walk through the mall or the supermarket with my children, And now it's like, oh, okay, I can't. Like, I have to take the scooter, or we need to order things to be delivered. So there was a huge transformation, and there was a lot of pain in the beginning. But I can honestly tell you, I do believe if this hadn't have happened, I wouldn't be as loving, kind, even though I was before, in the moment, as I am now. And truly, truly grateful for every single thing I have. And I feel that, and the relationships I've built, one of my really good friends, even though he's a virtual friend, he has spina bifida. And like, I love him as a person. And I've never met him, but like when he has bad days or he's in the hospital because he has a surgery, we check up on one another. And I've never met him, and I might never, but it if there's like it opened my heart and mind in a way that, even though I was always helping elderly people in wheelchairs, like always did, it gives you a new perspective because you're now in this life, right? In this community. And if that hadn't happened to me, I wouldn't be where I'm at. And so I feel like I was blessed with that. I feel like as hard as it was in the beginning, like I would not be where I'm at. I would not be as quick to forgive people. I would have just been running the rat race instead of like being grateful for the day, for the things I have, for my family, for all of that. So I'm a believer. Not everybody is, and everybody's on their own journey. And that's the other thing that's fantastic too, is I have friends that have cerebral palsy, and I gave this example with a bunch of other people in the entertainment industry that were working with inclusive talent. So I was their guest, and I said to them, you know, perfect example, and they already knew this. They said each person is an individual, like you said, right? So there's one lady that I know, very successful. She has cerebral palsy, gorgeous girl. And she sometimes, like when she's out with her husband, who is a fireman and he doesn't have CP or any other, like something that makes him unique, right? He's just who he is. He's not in a wheelchair or anything like that. And there are people that will come up to her and put their hand on her, trying to do, a good thing. And they're like, oh, I'm going to pray for you. And she gets so upset, like really hurt and mad. Now, I've had people do that to me, and I'm a different person. I have a totally different um, set of circumstances, right? So I'm grateful for those prayers, but everybody's an individual. And like, if you don't want to be um, called or someone say that you're handicapped, we have to respect that. If someone is not okay with saying able-bodied, because we were talking about that too, that's okay too. So I told everybody on the call, I usually ask my friends, or people, are you okay with this? Do you want help? Because some people don't, some people do, some people don't, and that's okay. I mean, we're all individuals. So I feel like, um, because of how quickly I declined, like, it was either sink or swim or learn, so I'm learning, and I'm still learning about other friends in different, like, little unique communities and what they need and what they, and listening. So I feel that being in this community has helped me listen more, love more, forgive more, and truly be grateful. So what has been the hardest thing in my life thus far has also been the biggest blessing.
Yeah, I listening to what you're saying, it's your diagnosis didn't change you who you are, in your core. It really just enhanced those things that you were already practicing, like you said.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
kindness, it just heightened those things those things that you already were as a person before the diagnosis. It just really amplified them, if you say. So that's really really great perspective, approach to being diagnosed more recently. You said that was in 2020.
2020.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so just, 6 years ago, not that long ago, but it seems like a lifetime ago for for us with living through everything. But
I
the
know.
yeah, so and just to another point that you were making, that everybody is an individual, and the example you used, of your friend, somebody approaching them, praying for them, it's, that's not everybody's thing, so it's
Yeah.
a good, you really
Absolutely.
have
For
to
a
be
multitude
respectful
of
of that.
reasons.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for a multitude of
Absolutely. It
reasons.
could be a million different reasons.
Right. Yeah, I've shared on the podcast before. I had a situation like that where I was with friends, and their two children, and a woman out of, we were at a park. We were on vacation. Went to Maine, and a woman came up to us and, oh, can I pray for you? And I'm a believer, but I said no, no, thank you. I appreciate
Okay.
it, but no, thank you.
Yeah.
Um, And she says, "Oh, well, I just want to take a few minutes to pray." And I said, "No,
No.
I appreciate it, but no, thank you." So she said a third time, and she said, "I just want to pray that God will heal you and that you'll be able to walk again." And so my friend's son, who was maybe 4 at the time, who knows me very well, he knows my condition, he says, "No, he can't walk without his braces and his crutches. He has a
No.
disability." And so, in that moment, I explained to the woman very briefly. I said, if you would have approached it a little differently, maybe I would have been more accepting of it. But to assume you don't know where somebody is in their journey with
Yeah,
their
that's true.
disability, that's a big thing because for me, like I'm okay with where I am. I've lived with my disability my whole life.
Yes.
But for somebody, like yourself, who is more recently, finding a diagnosis and still, learning to cope with it, and
Right.
you don't know where somebody is with their in their journey. So it's a sensitive subject, and people
It
mean
is.
well, but it is a um, just asking and accepting an answer
Yes.
with all things. And like you said, where you're finding out with your friends who have different disabilities if they need help, asking them if they
Yeah.
need help. If they say yes, where can you help
Right.
them?
Right. Say
And
no,
if
you
they
don't help them. Yeah.
yes, and if they say no, let's keep it moving. It's
I
okay.
agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
because the one lady, the one producer was saying that she had a blind woman on set and there was some kind of dresser and it had like a corner to it and she was walking towards it and the producer put her hand there so she wouldn't get hurt and the blind woman was really upset with her and she said at first I was like hurt by it but then I understood because the lady was like, listen, if you protect me, I'm never going to learn. That was her
Yeah.
personal feeling on that, right? So,
Hmm.
once again, everybody's an individual.
Right.
And also, too, I think like what you told the lady in the park, what's sometimes is difficult, and I think you were great in continuing to repeat. Like you tell somebody once,
Hmm.
you're you're really just trying to be like no, and also too, and we've learned,
Hmm.
uh, no is good enough,
Yes. Yes. No is a
right?
complete
I don't
sentence.
have
Yes.
to explain. It's
Right.
no, right?
No is a complete
So
sentence.
yeah, and I have to remind myself that too, because especially in the beginning, and even though it was out of love, like, oh, my mom wants to go to this store, then she wants to go to that store, and it's just like, and I have exhaustion now, and
Hmm.
it's like, so there was a learning curve, not for me, or just me, for everyone, kind of in my family.
Yeah.
And now they kind of get it. They're like, okay, so it's once again, and I had to learn to just be like, no,
Hmm.
with love,
Right.
but no,
Yeah.
I can't do it,
Yeah, like it's too much, and yeah, no, and it's like no, and I mean no, like it's
Yeah,
yeah,
and I mean no,
and I
and
mean it.
yeah, and it's okay, I mean,
Hmm.
people, because look, many people say no. And I think for me personally, I can't speak for everyone, it is self love because
Right.
it's like if I say yes all the time, then I'm literally in bed for like 2 days.
Yeah. Yeah, you've
Can't say
overdone it,
yes
and
every
yeah.
time. And
Yeah.
especially if you have your podcast, you have work, you have your career, things you're doing, you
Hmm.
may not be able to say yes all through the weekend and
Right.
then start your Monday.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? You might have to be like, okay, I can go to Joe's birthday on Friday, but I can't do the
Exactly.
Sunday barbecue or park outing, right? You
Exactly.
have to decide. And
Yeah.
so, no is really self care and
Hmm.
self love for everyone.
Yeah, and that's so true. Like for example, this past weekend, our Miracle League was had our opening day. So we played. It was Saturday. We played 5 games on Saturday. I was at the field at 8:15 in the morning. The games didn't end until after 1 o'clock. So it was
A lot.
a very busy day on Saturday. Loved it, had the time of my life. But yesterday, I literally sat and watched a full Phillies baseball game on mute. Like, I don't want to hear anything. I
You
just want
just want to just veg out.
right. I'll watch the game, but I don't want to
Yeah.
hear anything.
You don't want to hear anything. No, I get it. I
You
get it.
know?
And then the other thing is, one time, I'll just tell you this real quick. I had a job with Elsbeth. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's a
Yes.
CBS show.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the casting director, they contacted me individually, which was great. And then so I went and I worked in New York City, and it was me and another gentleman who had cerebral palsy. We were both in wheelchairs. So now this is union. So union stuff, amazing. Food. We had one gentleman who was kind of just attentive to us. We were allowed to be on set in a quiet room that had enough room for him and me. And I brought my son to help me. Um, so now there are situations where in the past, because I have a headshot and it's usually just here, so you can't see that I'm sitting in the chair, you know. So I always put in the notes, I'm a wheelchair talent. You know, but I can transfer, but I let them know, but they don't always read it. So there have been jobs that they are like getting ready to book me, and then they're like, oh, wait a minute, she's in a wheelchair. We're not taking her. But that's
Wow.
why most people want to be in the union, but it's extremely difficult to get in the union because you have to be on a union job and they can only hire a very small percentage. I think it's like 10 or 15, 20% of the people on set can be inclusive talent. And then even smaller percentage can be non-union at a union job. And then not only do you have to be there, but then you usually have to have a line like stop
Wow. Hmm.
or wow. And then if you get the line, then you can go with the paperwork for the Taft Hartley through the union and you can get in. So it's extremely difficult. But the good thing about the union
Wow.
is they have a complete section for inclusive talent. So if you have a problem or something goes wrong on set, you just call the union.
Hmm.
So
Wow.
there are protections in place, but like for example, modeling, even though thank goodness I've never had a bad experience at all. Except like I said, sometimes I don't get a job because they realize at the last minute that, oh, this lady's in a chair and we don't want that for whatever reason. And you never know, like you never really know why they don't pick certain people. But modeling has no union. So if you're modeling, you know what I mean? What it could, hopefully they'll have, ramps and they usually do. They usually do. I have never found myself in a bad situation, but I do not do anything on backstage, which a lot of people do. I've made that decision because I have representation in many different states that I'm like, I don't know, because sometimes they'll have somebody in there and they're not really background checked. And then you might not show up and there might be like 10 stairs and no accessible bathroom. So I always tell people that if you're in our community, you know, do your best to get representation. And there's tons of other agencies besides ZBD that are absolutely looking for inclusive talent with many different unique things about a person. Maybe they can't see, maybe they're a wheelchair user, maybe they have spina bifida, maybe they have MS, maybe they use a cane, maybe they have like an anxiety condition, like whatever it might be. There are talents. Like I have humankind in Massachusetts, and Christy there, Raymond, has gotten me many jobs here. So, and she specifically represents people in our community. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's really great that that it's becoming more more inclusive in the world of, the acting and modeling worlds. And you're seeing more people. I know, I think Target had an ad out like a back to school maybe a year or two ago where they had a wheelchair user,
Yeah,
a student in a wheelchair that had a backpack on the back of her chair.
so
And
cute. Yeah,
yeah, and I know online I've seen some some of the beauty brands that are booking the models to be for their makeup lines and things like that, and
yeah,
they're being pictures are up in the department stores and things like that. So it's
yes,
really great to see the change happening like right before our eyes with the more inclusive brands that are they're showing more inclusive people, with disabilities in their ads and things like that. Um, so you mentioned that you were diagnosed in 2020 with multiple sclerosis. Can you share, um, what your understanding is of what that diagnosis is, and as much as you're comfortable with sharing, can you talk about how this diagnosis impacts your life?
sure. So, we learned about it in high school, right? As one of the diseases that like you don't want to get. And then I did work many years ago. I worked at the Sports Club LA. I believe it's now Equinox in Market Street in San Francisco, and I was a swim instructor. And the only person I had ever met with MS was this one very successful businessman, and he used to walk without a cane, but with like a limp. And you could see his legs were atrophied, and he was a swimmer. And he used to, I used to train him in the pool for swimming. He was very down and kind of depressed, but he lived in the Four Seasons and he had a fantastic job and he had the means to, because I asked him one time, he's like, oh, well, they do everything for me. They food shop, they put my food away, they do my laundry, they clean. Like he was blessed that he had the funding to do all of this, and he had a job, like he had a really good job. So that was the only person I really had known in my entire life. And then I ended up getting it. So obviously doing some research, it's basically a disease of your central nervous system, which is your brain and your spinal cord. So your body is autoimmune, from what I still know is updated. It attacks the the nerve fibers, like there's a protective coating on the axon sheath, and it basically the nerve travels from your brain, down to your legs or your all of your organs and everything like that. And it takes away the protective coating. So your brain is telling, maybe telling your legs to move. And there might be, let's say, normally there's 5 pathways open, and you might only have one that works. Or like when I get sick, I have none that work. And then I'm like completely paralyzed from the waist down. So I've had recent MRIs done, and there's definitely been some decline in the last year. Um, everything, like I can't really walk. I have, because your nerves innervate everything. So like I have to self cath with my bladder. Like I can't just go to the bathroom like someone else, Um, and my breathing, like I have shortness of breath, but I can't vigorously exercise because the moment I get overheated. So I also have an issue with temperature control. Like I either get way too cold and start shaking violently, and then it takes me like a half an hour, 45 minutes to warm up. Most people, it takes a few minutes. Or I'm overheated and I feel like I need to lay down on the floor. So it's affected everything. Also have issues multitasking now. Like I'm having this conversation with you, but I couldn't also be writing a text. I mean, would never do that. But let's just say like I had something else going on. I could not, where before I could do almost 5 things at once, right? Or my kids are talking to me and I'm trying to write an email and I'm like, uh, I can't do it, like I have to tell them, okay, I need to speak to you in a minute because I either speak to you now and then write the email. Like there's no, I'm incapable. I'm honestly like it may be two things, maybe on a good day. And it affects my speech. Like my family knows when I'm getting sick because I start to slur my words. When I got COVID, I was hospitalized for 5 days. I didn't have difficulty breathing, but I couldn't even feed myself. Like my hand, I also have issues with my hand. So it affects everything. Basically, it attacks your nerve fibers. And in order for your body to function properly, the signal must go from your brain to the rest of your body. And when I send signals, and I also have frontal lobe lesions, so I don't know how many signals are going now, but when I send the signal, nothing's happening. It's like there's no, the connection isn't, it's like that phone game where you like there's just intercepted, and so the signal doesn't go. And what I tell people, and everybody's different, there's people with MS who run marathons because they have what is called relapsing remitting, so they're really only sick when they do get a flare up, and then they might be sick for like a week or two, and then they give them steroids and they get better, and then they're continuing to slide down. But my type is where every day I wake up and I'm pretty much either worse from the day before or the same with all the same symptoms. Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
challenging, but it is what it
Mhm.
is.
Yeah, thank you for that explanation. And like you said, you learn about it. It is one of those diagnoses that is in a lot of science books in, middle school or high school that you learn about when you're learning about nerves and the, protective coverings and things of the nerves and all of that. That is, one of the diagnoses that you do read about in middle school or high school. But thank you for that, that in-depth discussion, description of what how it impacts your body. So, thank you for that. And
Yeah.
as you mentioned, which I love the term that you used, inclusive talent. That's such a great way of doing it. And I did write that down when you said that. I
I
was like, oh,
learned
that's
that
good.
from them. They taught me.
Yeah,
I didn't know in the beginning, and I was like, oh,
yeah.
that's really good because it includes a lot of
It
people.
covers everything. Yeah, yeah, it
Yeah.
covers everybody,
Yeah. It
right?
does.
Yeah, so you are an inclusive talent, an actress and a model. And can you tell us and explain what your experience of getting into that world has been like? Um, and also why you feel it is important for people with disabilities to be represented in the acting and modeling worlds.
Yeah. So I feel like, for me or for anybody who's interested, and there are a lot of companies that will greatly reduce the price on headshots, especially for people that are in the inclusive talent pool. So that's the first thing. You have to get your headshots, and I started going to an acting class in Arizona. I was scared about that because I was like, oh, there's one bathroom, and like, what if I have to get out and this and that. But what I've found is in the entertainment industry and probably in other areas, as long as you explain to someone what you need, most of the time they give it to you. And then the other thing is, or they're willing to help you. If they're not, you need to ask yourself, do you really want to be there anyway? Because this is going to cause all kinds of problems for you, right? So I've never encountered that at all where someone's like, no, I can't help you or whatever. Um, and I've been on set where I've asked people, can you push my wheelchair? Because like I can't make it up that hill. And I do have an automatic one. And I just genuinely feel, just be honest, which I always have been. So that's been easy for me. But I do feel like if it's a new thing for you, like if you weren't born that way, if you've had a tragic accident and now you're quadriplegic, you have to go through the acceptance in order to, I feel, then be your new self with all the same characteristics, just in an adapted way. So, like, you're a new person, but you're still the old person, but you have to, with your adaptation, right, in your new life. And so once you get past that, once you, not past that, but once you go through that, once you experience that, you fully accept that, then I think you can have great headshots, and you can go on jobs and be who you are. And I think it's so important that we are representative, that inclusive talent are everywhere. Because the last thing I want to say is, I forget where I read it, and I'm sure many people have said it, but being disabled is the one community that you can join at any time of your life, right? And it's like it doesn't really come with like, oh, this is going to happen tomorrow. But then when it does happen, you're there. And so, I think that it's very important. And I don't know, you might know the statistics, Arthur, but that millions and millions and millions of people are disabled or included, like in a situation where they are unique and special. Like that's what I like. We're unique and special because what you've done, accomplished by the time it's noon, is way more than someone else. I feel like people in our community are finding unique ways to put on their sneakers. Like they've had to teach me, a lot of my friends, I'm like, how do you get your sneaker on? Oh, well, I have this clamp and it picks it up and I bring my shoe and it's like, wow, that's so creative. Like, and that's why I tell people, producers and directors all the time, you need to hire more inclusive talent because we're living it. That visceral that you want, the moment we wake up, we're in it.
Yeah.
We're in it.
Yeah, that's so true. We do. We have to be creative with the things that we do. Like you said, with putting on shoes, like how do you do that? And
Yeah. How do you do it? How do you get your
yeah.
pants on?
Yeah.
How do I reach that thing up on top of the, in the cabinet I can't get to if I'm by
Yeah, and I'm
myself,
here by
right?
myself, right? Exactly. Yeah.
How are you going to do it?
Yeah, that's one of the things I remember when I had moved, first moved on my own, living by myself and setting up my kitchen. My mom and her sisters, they were helping me move and I told them, I said, don't put anything away in my kitchen. I said, because I have a special place I want
You have a
things.
routine.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, things that I don't need right away, that, they can go
Yeah.
up high because I can get somebody over whenever I need it, once a
Yes.
year to bring it
Right.
down or
That's
something like
smart.
that.
Yep.
But something like my crock pot that I might use more often, I need that on my countertop.
Good for you.
It's not usually where you might leave it, but I need it there because I'll use it all the time
We
and I
do a
don't want
lot of
to,
crock pot.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to have to go in my closet to get it and drag it into my kitchen and it's more accessible
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
me there on my countertop. So we make adaptations in our everyday life uh to make things more easy for us to just live and like you said to get dressed, putting on our shoes and things like that. So yeah, thank you for that. And it's really again, it's really important that, people with disabilities are showing up in more places, as inclusive talent on TV shows and movies and, um, commercials and just everywhere. It's really, really great. And I'm happy to hear about, all of the talent agencies that are assisting people with disabilities
Oh,
to help,
absolutely.
yeah, to help them
Absolutely.
find
Like
jobs and,
I think I have five agencies, and two of them specifically are only for inclusive talent. And the other ones have a section where they absolutely want a
Mm-hmm.
male, with who identifies as having whatever it may be, or is in a wheelchair, or somebody with a walker, and a female,
Mm-hmm.
so every agency I have is either full blown, only inclusive, or they have a section for us.
That's great. That is really,
Mm-hmm.
really great. It's
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm really excited. There are a few people that responded to the posts from your agency, so I'm excited to share everyone's story over the next few weeks with the great work and things that you're doing, and making a name for yourself out there in the entertainment world, for and being more visible for people with disabilities. And it's really important to ask for what you need, like you said, when you go to these
Yes,
different sets and things like that, and auditions. And um there's no shame, like you said, you put on there that you're a wheelchair user, and that you
absolutely.
yeah, that you can transfer, and
Absolutely.
there's no shame in that, to so it
No.
can be accessible for you when you get there, because like you said, you might show up to a place that has steps and no elevator. So
Yeah, right.
then
Then what do
you've
you do?
yeah, then you've wasted you wasted all the time getting there, and parking and whatever else, or
Mm-hmm.
taking the transportation, and you can't even get into the space that you need to access. So
Yep.
it is always great to be upfront and honest about those things,
Yep.
when necessary, and just being confident in yourself, and who you are and what you're able to do, and your own talent, and being secure in that is that's great advice for anybody. I think, to
Yeah.
really believe in yourself. So thank you so much for
Thank you.
for this conversation. I've really enjoyed it, and look forward to sharing this with everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so
Yes.
much. And thank you, ZBD, because they're the ones who set
Yes.
me up with you.
Yes.
And they're just amazing. I mean, I think it's the biggest inclusive talent agency in the world,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah, that's
It is
really
that great. So
yeah, it's
thank you.
great. There were quite a few people that responded from that
Good.
post that they put out, so I'm excited
That's
to hear of
exciting.
everything that you're all doing. It's all so fun, and really, really great. So thank you again for your
Thank you,
time.
Arthur.
Yes, you're welcome, and have a great day.
You too. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Our View, the podcast, where we amplify the voices and stories of those in the disabled community, one conversation at a time. If this story moved you, taught you something new, or sparked a different perspective, we'd love to hear from you. Write a review of the podcast on Apple Podcast, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. Follow us on all social media platforms at Our View for Life 25. At Our View, we believe that disability is not a limitation. It is a powerful part of the human experience. So until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and keep seeing the world through our view.